Hello, Jackie. Thank you very much for agreeing to be here and have a real conversation with me. And you and I have spoken a few times before this way. We've never met in person, and
No,
hopefully one day we will.
yes, yeah, yes, I really hope so.
So I don't know, would you like to introduce yourself a little, or do you want to just be Jackie and
I think just Jackie,
that's fine.
mum, dog mum, retired recently, technically.
Sounds
That's
like you've still got quite a lot of things that you do
yes, it's
whilst being retired.
a bit too much actually. That's one
Yeah,
of my issues that I have to sort out. It's too
right.
much.
Too much,
Yeah,
too many things.
yes,
Yeah.
too many things that drain me and not enough. I'm not doing enough that feed me and energize me. So
Ah,
um,
okay.
I'm
Yeah. Well, we
conscious of
could
that.
hold that in mind while we talk if you would like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this isn't, of course, I'm a counselor, a therapist, a coach. I do all of these things, and that's not what this is. It is a conversation, but
Yeah, yeah,
it would be pretty impossible, I think, for me to just shut all that down in me because it's who I
yeah.
am. It's a way of being.
It's fine.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I know you've got a lot of counselling skills and
yeah,
these kind of therapeutic ways of being yourself
yeah,
from
yeah.
your
I'm not a trained counsellor as such, but I've done a lot of training in counselling skills. So
yeah, yeah. And it is it's not something we can just turn on or off, is it? It's like it's just
no,
in us
no,
to be how
yeah,
we are, and yeah.
yeah,
So we'll just be ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah, great. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything particularly around for you that you would like to talk about, or should we just see what unfolds?
I'd like to see what unfolds. I mean, obviously, because before you were talking about the series being about shame, women and shame. I
Yeah,
suppose my thoughts have gone in that
yeah,
direction.
yeah,
But I suppose that probably, in some, even if it's a tenuous way, probably does connect with me doing too much for other people, which I think you know is an issue of mine anyway,
okay.
because I give too much of myself away in this not not in the sense of giving away too much personal information, but giving away too much of myself in affording other people time, and I don't afford myself that same.
Yeah. So lots and lots of caring, lots of love and care and support.
And whereas I
Time.
acknowledge that to be a good thing, I think the reason it kind of I give too what I would say too much of myself where it probably is located in that whole original shame and lack of self-worth and all of that thing, which I've done a lot to address over the years, but
Mhm.
it's still there. It's
Still
still there.
there. Yeah, yeah. So it's almost like it's really, really hard to turn that switch off, the caring, supporting, loving part of you that just offers in that moment. It's just there. You see somebody in need and you just show up. Is that right? It's maybe not quite like that.
And I don't I think that's a good thing, but it's it's about doing that with boundaries. Um, and I guess for me as well, I have to consider that I'm a priest, I'm an Episcopal priest, so it's partly my job. That job hasn't I haven't retired from that job. I retired.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on a pension retired, if you see what I mean, but that's not a paid job. So so that is part of who I am and what I do and what I've always done. Um, but it's about doing that with very strong boundaries and very strong sort of self care and um, um, knowing when to kind of hold back, and that balance is between giving time to others and giving time to myself, and all of that is a bit of a minefield. But I wouldn't be anything other than helping other people.
It's like in you, it's who you are,
Yeah,
it's how
it
you
is.
are.
But it's that where do I stop? Where do I put the brakes on,
Yeah.
when do I pull up the drawbridge and say this is my time, and all this kind of thing.
Yeah. And do you manage to do some of that?
Not very well at the moment. It is an issue that I'm trying to look at the moment because I am feeling a bit. I'll be honest, a wee bit like everyone wants a bit of me,
Yeah.
so a bit pulled
Yeah.
on all sides.
Yeah.
A lot of that actually happens with this little thing that is down there, the phone,
Mobile phone.
messenger and texts and calls, and
Yes.
I can message somebody to kind of try and put that boundary in place to say, I hear what you're saying to me. Um, I will come back to this, but right now, because I said, right now, I'm going to do a dog walk, and then I need to do some things. But I'll come back to you later.
Hmm.
So they know that they're not been abandoned when they've
Yeah.
just put out their heart and soul to me. But
So you
then
react in that moment.
they just keep messaging me, and nobody seems to. When I do that, trying to put that kind of boundary in place. Um, yeah, that they, instead of then respecting what I've said, that I need to take time to do whatever it is, and I will come back. They
Yeah.
just keep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get a call, or that I find really difficult.
Yeah. It's like they can't turn it off themselves. What's it like for you to say no? Is it possible? Does it feel rude or, all that conditioning around?
It, I mean, I did for a while get much better at it, but for some reason, when somebody's like pouring their heart out on messages and things like that, I seem to be struggling with saying no to that, or just you know, especially if I've said something like that, and then the next thing I know, the phone is ringing. It's them calling.
Oh, right. So they message on the phone, you explain, well, I'm doing this and da 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 and so, and I'll come back to you. And then they actually ring you on the
Sometimes, not
like
always,
on the landline
or just on the mobile.
or on the mobile. So
Yeah,
you say no, but they don't seem to hear the no, they just phone you.
phone or another message will come through, pouring out loads of things. And I suppose my mistake is that I actually read it, and I'm hooked. Then I'm hooked, and once I'm hooked in, I find it very difficult. You know.
It is
But
not
I also feel a little hurt that they're not actually acknowledge anything I've
about
said
you
about me. Yeah, yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And so what about you? Because I'm thinking that hook, I heard you talk about that hook. And I get it. I can be hooked in lots of ways as well, totally. Even with animals, never mind human beings. So it's easy to be hooked in. And I was thinking though about you and your need, because these people don't listen to you. They don't hear you being busy in the moment, going to do this, that, and the other. You've got a busy day, and they keep on going. And I'm wondering if there's something maybe in you that's because you don't get that opportunity to be truly seen and heard fully, you know what that's like. So you don't want them to experience that.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, I
Mm.
think it's a good thing that I'm actually starting to get borderline angry at it, which is
Yeah.
is quite good.
Survival energy, great. Well, you've talked about anger. It's like you get borderline angry at the moment. You're starting to really feel something more than
Yes,
being hooked in.
yes, yeah,
Like, what about me? I think that's what you're saying. Something
yeah.
like, well, what about me?
But everything is being just dumped on, not dumped on me and her getting angry with me, but just verbally, just
Yeah,
all
kind of throwing
emotions.
it all your way.
And it's too much. It's absolutely too much.
Yeah. So it sounds like when it comes your way, you do kind of let it in. I mean, we do, don't we? We're human. We let it in, we soak it up, we feel it. And
And
then
I
what
have,
does that do to you, to us?
yeah, and I have had to try and put some boundaries in place.
So something that you give is very valuable to them.
She leaves me WhatsApp messages, and so again, I will say, I'm really sorry, I'm feeling this way today. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'll come back later. That was my standard thing. I'll come back later.
I guess it feels a bit like, when a little, because you and I are mums, when kids are toddlers, especially maybe around about sort of 18 months to maybe 3, they can literally get hold of our face, can't they? Mommy, 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 and pull out
Yes.
our face towards their face to say,
No
me,
escape.
me, because
Yes,
that is that stage, isn't it? Me, me,
that's
me.
when you say that, that's it exactly, and that's how it feels.
Yeah,
And whereas with a toddler, you can understand it. They're a toddler. They don't have,
yeah,
and they need your attention.
they're
And
right.
yeah, and everything has to revolve around them. They're a
Yeah,
toddler. But when it's a
completely.
grown adult who,
Yeah, who's
um,
obviously missed out on that stage with their own mum,
yeah, I'd never thought about that actually.
and they're getting that taste of it from you, which is addictive and wonderful, and I just want more of it. I just want to dive in here and be in this wonderful Jackie world of love and care. They love it so much, and they just can't, it is like an addiction in a way. To pull themselves out of that is so hard. We just want it, but it's not okay for you.
It's quite a revelation actually. I've never seen it like that.
Ah, okay. Yeah, typically my counselor head is
No,
on.
but that's really helpful because I have never seen it like that, and that's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, it's like
And I
Jackie,
think
Jackie, Jackie, Jackie.
you don't like I don't exist in my own right beyond what I can give them.
And so they missed out on all of that. They've had a taste of it from you. They love the flavor of it and they just want more and more and more. And this isn't your official role with them. And they just want more and more and more. They can't hear you when you say, I'm going to bed, I'm going out, I've got a life, basically. I've got a life.
So on Saturday, no, was it Friday afternoon? I was preaching. I was due to preach the sermon on Sunday, and I mean, usually at the beginning of the week, I'm starting to think about what I want to say and the passage I'm preaching on. And I'm not somebody who can just sit down for an hour, write it, and that's it. I have to let it
Yeah,
percolate
simmer and yeah.
before I actually then do something write it. And because the week had been so busy, Saturday, and I don't do evenings and nights for because I have chronic fatigue. I'm done by then. Evenings, but I had left it till then because I was just so busy all week. So I had to.
With them, busy helping and
Well,
supporting.
just just all different things. It was just a busy
Right.
week.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd actually said to this one friend, in fact, I think I'd said to both of them, right, I have to now get this done. I'm switching off because I must write this sermon because it is for Sunday and I'm out tomorrow and I was out Saturday morning. So,
Yeah.
um,
Almost having to appeal to them to
yeah,
understand,
and,
have a life.
and I did switch off my phone
Good.
because I had to
Yeah.
get this
Yeah.
done. And I
Absolutely.
did. I got the bulk of it done. I just had to tidy up on Saturday. But when I switched my phone back on, there were all these messages. They'd kept on messaging me. And it's that not their need is so great
Yeah.
that
It
I,
is.
for the time
There's a
being,
real
I've sort of,
hunger.
yeah, that I have stopped existing in my own right and they're not being respectful of me and what I do and what I need.
Yeah. No wonder your body is full of fatigue and pain. You mentioned just before about fatigue, chronic fatigue. No wonder with it feels like being hunted down.
Yeah, yeah, it
Almost
does.
like being hunted down and trying to wade through porridge to get out of it, away from it.
I mean, I have this daydream which I've had for years. I can't afford to make true at the moment, but I still hope I do sometime about having converting a small van into a little camper van, so
Sounds
that I
good.
can pile the dogs in and take off. This is
Yeah.
my dream.
No Wi-Fi.
No, but part of that dream is an escape. is
Yeah,
just
absolutely. Yeah.
so that when it all gets too much, I could just, as I pile the dogs in, a couple of books and things to write and draw and whatever, and go
Yeah.
and get away, just get away from it all.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes it makes me just want to flee, just to run.
No wonder. No wonder. And if you
Um,
do that in your imagination just for a few minutes, that might give you some kind of something that you're really looking for, or to literally flee in
yeah,
your imagination, to, run, I don't know, run to the
jump
beach and
I live vicariously through other folk that I look at who do the van life,
yeah,
and
lovely.
I note that sense in myself because my dream is to run to the sea. I want to be by the
Oh,
sea.
right. Yeah, I just said that.
Just
Interesting.
have
Because I know you are actually near the sea, aren't you? You live near a
well, I'm a bit
coast.
more in. It's not far, but I'm a bit more inland. So
Okay.
I've now got my car. It's a small car. I haven't yet learnt to drive to the sea. I will because I
Yeah.
was just getting some confident with my driving when I broke my ankle, and so it was quite a few months again of not driving. So I'm driving again now,
Yeah.
but I've got to get the confidence again to
Yes.
the weather and stuff. So I will get back out and I will learn to drive to the sea. It's not that far away.
Yeah,
Um,
great.
I also, because in the end I couldn't afford a van, I had to be realistic up the skint. So, but this is a small car, but I made sure that with the front passenger seat moved forward, and it's got quite a big boot, I could actually still sleep in it. So
Fantastic.
mentally preparing my car, a couple of
It's a
overnights would probably be the
possibility.
most I could get away with in that, especially with a big dog. But I'm hoping I can still do it. And
Wonderful.
that dream energizes me.
Yes. The
And it's
freedom,
partly
the
freedom
escape.
because I want to travel a bit, and because I'm broke, I can't afford to travel. But it would do that. But some
Yeah.
of it, I have to acknowledge, is just this. Just want to get away. Just
Yeah. Yes. And so
just
saying no is it just almost feels impossible because they just won't listen.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if it was a toddler, of course, we've got to be available to them and find ways with toddlers to help them understand that, we do need to go and have a wee in peace and quiet for a minute because they're right there, aren't they, all the time? But I really hear the hunger and the need in those that you've mentioned, that their hunger is huge and they get it from you because they get your attention, they get your full love and care, and that it's so tasty. They just want more.
But I am actually, because I do reflect on this myself, and why can't I say no? Why can't I just pull up the drawbridge? And
Yep.
it definitely was easier when I was working. I worked as a hospital chaplain for a long time. I could do it then because there
Yeah.
was a professional boundary. I can do it now in my capacity as a priest,
Mm-hmm.
because although, of course, I befriend people, we are friends, but we're not personal friends outside of the church.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, to keep a slight
That
boundaries do
boundary
get crossed, but nonetheless, that sort of boundary on time and everything.
with that kind of need.
It's really, really hard to put that in place. So
Yeah.
I have been reflecting on why can I not do that? Why can I not just claim what I
Mhm.
crave? And I crave so
Yes.
desperately.
Freedom and escape. That's what you crave.
Yeah. And I do come back to a lot of that is grounded in guilt, and I think the feeling guilty is grounded in the earlier shame.
Okay. So you can go back to the root of it. You know
Yeah,
where it lies.
I'm
And
pretty sure that that's yes. There's the caring. Of course, I care about them,
Mhm.
and when you care about someone, of course, you're going to feel guilty when you. But I think this goes much deeper. My inability to um, And I think I have to acknowledge as well that I get something out of being needed. And
Yes,
it,
of course.
it
Yeah,
affirms me. It
of
affirms me.
course. Yeah,
Yes, there are limits on that.
I
Um,
missed that. I missed that. Listen, just that last bit.
there are limits on that.
Yes. So
So it's nice to feel needed, but not as much as I am currently. Yeah.
yeah, and it's nice to feel needed, and you do give, but they want so much, they need so much, and demand so much from you. But this kind of route back to the beginning of, it sounds like guilt.
Yeah,
You mentioned you felt you could sense it was from guilt
yeah.
and not being able to say no.
And I mean, I have done so much work on myself on being able to say no. And so that's
And
why I
you
think
can professionally, but with
professionally I can.
friends, it's different.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And I think I had been doing an awful lot better with that. But I think, I mean, when Mum died, even though she was very elderly and had been ill for, it was still a huge shock because she didn't die of what she had been ill from, and
Absolutely. You
everything.
weren't expecting it.
Well, I wasn't expecting it at all. Not at that point. I knew it would come because of her age, but at that point and how it happened and all the rest of it was very traumatic. And I have had some trauma therapy, on that, which has been really helpful.
Good. Glad to
Um,
hear it.
but
And
I
I'm
think,
imagining, Jackie, you didn't text and ring and call and leave messages constantly for that trauma therapist
wouldn't no, wouldn't
because
dream
you
of it.
wouldn't do it. You wouldn't dream of it. And you don't do that. Is it okay? I've kind of butted in.
And no, I didn't message her all hours at all, but nonetheless, she was really helpful and really supportive.
I'm glad to
Uh,
hear it.
so there is a sense of giving something back, in that sense.
Yeah.
But at the moment, this is way over the top,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put a video out. I think you were going to go and watch that video. I put a blog out with a video, and it's really all about this stuff. I don't know if
I
you watched it or not, but
I read the blog. That's right. I was going to, and I was just so tired. I was going to watch the video, and I was actually just so tired that I
yeah,
thought, and then it went out of my
yeah.
head.
There's so
But
much goes on. It's
yeah,
there anyway. It's there. You
but I
might find it
went,
useful.
yeah, because I read the blog and I related so much to
Yeah,
to what you said.
yeah. So that, I mean, I don't know if you want to go to that root place in you, or do you not want to do that, Jackie?
No, I'm quite happy to, because I think for me it's really important to know where it comes from, and
Absolutely.
I know it comes from a a deep sense of shame that I was actually born with, and it's like all my earlier life just seemed to um, affirm the shame, and pile shame upon shame.
Yeah.
And
And you
I mean,
arrived with shame. You were
that's how I
born in shame.
and so I think it's important to acknowledge that, because sometimes I think, because I will try and work through something going on in me, why am I doing this and everything, and then I beat myself up when I find myself doing it again. I think, well, I thought I sorted that, and I realize if you've had almost a lifetime of something that's, I'm not explaining it well. If you've had almost a lifetime of something that's causing it, it's going to take a lifetime to deal with it. And
Okay.
I need to be gentle with myself and know that that's going to keep coming back. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Of
So
course, yeah. I'm really interested that you arrived. It's like you were bored and you were born shamed.
yes,
You were a
it was.
shameful child, a shameful baby.
Yeah, I mean, I was. My mum wasn't married. Now
Okay.
today, you think,
No big
I
deal.
was born in the 50s, and I think people today, you cannot begin to relate to how things
Yeah,
were then and the attitude to an unmarried mother.
of course. Yeah.
And
And I had a similar thing. So we share something. I mean, my mum was just married and there was a lot of stuff in the community. So I think what I'm saying is I've got my own knowing about what you're talking about. So you
we have touched on this before.
yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, when my mom went into labour and went into hospital, they at that point they actually put her into a side ward with on her own, because there was a sense that
It was a
she
shameful situation.
might contaminate some of the other mums and babies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That's a huge word. Contaminate feels a massive word.
yeah.
Contaminate.
That's certainly how my mum felt about it. And of course, my mum told me this when I was quite young, so I just absorbed all of this. But apparently, the ward sister had been off duty, or matron or ward sister, whatever, and had come on duty, seen what was happening, and then told all the staff off and brought mum back then into the
Oh,
main.
yes.
The damage was done. I
Yeah.
was born by
Yeah.
then. So I was born secretly away in this other room. Mum, poor mum, poor mum. I mean, all
Yeah.
by herself.
Shameful situation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Totally, because, being unmarried mum,
Yeah.
when actually I think they should have been praising her because she decided to have me and keep me. I mean, well, not having me wasn't an option back then. Well, not legally
Yeah.
anyway.
No, of course. Yeah.
Um, but she had been under pressure to give me away and put me up for adoption and all the rest of it. And she said, "No, this is my child." And so she
Wow.
should have been affirmed and praised for that. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
instead, she was put on one side on her own,
Hidden
shamed by her.
away,
Uh,
separated,
yeah, yeah. So
excluded.
I believe I absorbed that from possibly even before birth.
Well, yeah, understandably, this all makes complete sense.
Yeah. So, and then, so all my experiences after that, I think, just seemed to affirm that shame, because when I went to, first of all, infant school or nursery, before that, school nursery, back then, everyone had a mummy and daddy. And the only acceptable way to not have a daddy was if your daddy had died. So my mother and my grandmother, who we lived with,
Yeah.
they argued over. Mum wanted me to be honest and just say, I don't have a daddy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
She wants to hold my head up, say, I don't have a daddy.
Yeah.
My grandmother said, "Oh, no, you must say he's dead." Now, she meant well.
Of
There
course.
was that conflict.
It was
For
cultural
me,
parent, so
yeah,
severe.
for me, that just again told me there's something to be ashamed of here, because I've got to lie. I was being told to lie.
Yeah.
And I know she wanted I'd have an easier life if I just said that he was dead, except I wouldn't, because there'd be a question beyond that and a question beyond that. What's his name? Who was he? What did he die of? And the lies would.
Yeah, absolutely. Just
Mum could see, and Mum wanted me just to be honest. So, and so
Jackie, sorry to butt right in there, but did Granny win? Did Mum win? What happened there?
Mum won in the sense of I just went with what she said, that because I struggled to lie about it. I didn't have it any, so it was.
Yeah.
But
Was
I seem to remember that being a massive thing, and from a very early age, I learned the word illegitimate, and I learned that was a bad thing.
yeah.
Nobody uses that word, and thank goodness. But
No.
it was very much, so small children can be very cruel to each other, and that's quite a big word for small children to use. But it haunted me all the way through primary school. You're illegitimate,
Yeah.
and it was
Leaves us
used.
in a one down place. We feel less than, we feel
Yes,
not good enough.
kids, and I'm sure those same kids have grown up to be wonderful adults, not even realizing the harm of their words. But children do throw what they can at other children,
They
and
do.
maybe I've done it to others without knowing. But for me, it was that word haunted my
Very,
childhood.
so painful, so painful.
Yeah,
And so, it's almost like a pattern repeat of mum being put aside in the ward when she was giving birth, and
yeah,
you're put aside as illegitimate,
yes, yeah.
not good enough.
No, that was it. Not good
Yeah,
enough. Not
not
good
good
enough.
enough,
Yeah.
which is going to create incredible shame.
So that's why I say I was born with it and grew up with it. Um, and and my grandmother and mum argued all the time. They had their own issues, but I know I was one of the issues. not me personally. I was very loved. I was always very loved by both, and I know that.
Good.
Thankfully, I do know that.
So glad.
But I also knew that I was the bone of contention between them. You know,
This is what a difficult, painful place to be in between these two women.
and
Mum,
the,
Gran.
yeah, and the pattern was set for how I am now because I was like my mum's best friend. So
Yeah.
I
And I
listened.
noticed what you said earlier, and I haven't come back to that yet, but I did clock what you said, Jackie, about her sharing with you, saying, like,
Yeah,
explaining these things to you when you were very little.
and I won't go into it, but she also told me a lot of things that no child should ever know about their family, about other very shameful things in the family. I think she thought there were things that I would never really take in.
She
You,
didn't
you know,
realize.
she was
Yes.
using a kind of sounding board sayings. I don't believe that she ever thought I would absorb really what she was saying or
Yeah.
get the meaning of what she was saying.
Yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
I was quite aware as a small child.
Absolutely.
I'm
Very.
aware of dynamics of behavior and feelings, and even if I couldn't make logical sense of things, really aware. I think I've always been quite sort of
Bodily.
aware of, yeah.
And you
And
experience chronic fatigue.
I was a very sickly child as well, which I think,
No wonder.
yeah.
It makes so much sense.
So I was there listening to mum, and then when mum wasn't there, my grandmother was doing the same thing. And in fact, my grandmother tried to poison me against my mum. Um, so I would listen to both. And I was the recipient of both.
Yeah, both. Yeah, and very different ways
Yeah,
of being and views because they were born at different times. What a
yeah.
weight on you.
And neither of them meaning any damage to me. I mean, psychology and things was unknown. They had no perception of.
They didn't intend harm to you.
No, they didn't. They
They
didn't. But
didn't.
they did a lot of harm.
And they set you up as a really good listener
Yeah, yeah.
to people who are close,
As a child, that's how I got my affirmation.
of course. And you talked earlier about what you get out of being a good listener.
I was two things. I was a very, very good, very quiet child, very good, very quiet,
Wow.
and naturally, and I was a good listener from when I was very young. And Mum used to tell me a story how I used to have to go to what they called play centre. It was like an after-school club, a play centre. And instead of playing with the kids, I would sit on the bench and talk to the teacher, and we'd have an adult conversation. And
Yep.
he would say, "I was a listener." That this was primary school. I think some of it was natural. I think that is part of my personality, and I like listening. I like learning about people. Less so now because I've had enough for the moment. But
Yeah, you're really ready for the escape.
I
You want
think
to run,
I learned at an early age that that's how I got my affirmation.
of course.
So I didn't go off playing with the other kids because I already felt separate from them anyway.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. You felt more connected to the adult, the teacher who, whoever was in that role
yeah, yeah,
and was their confidant.
yeah. But I think the shame in all of that, I think, was largely had set me up for it.
Almost like if I do this, if I do the listening, if I do the supporting, it releases me a little bit from that shame. It
Yeah,
eases the shame,
yes,
makes balances up somehow that I'm not good enough. I'm more good enough somehow.
yeah. And I desperately needed that affirmation because I never thought I was good enough for anything. And I remember my mum saying, I mean, that she couldn't understand. I still almost hear her say she couldn't understand why I had no confidence whatsoever at anything because she was trying so hard to boost me up and build me up. But it's like I was being boosted up and built up on one side, but I had all this stuff on the other side that was was heavy, was
Yeah,
stronger.
yes, there was a real deficit there for you.
And then I was actually shamed by one of the teachers in school because I know now that I have dyscalculia, which is with the numbers and concepts
All
around.
right, okay.
So it's a bit like dyslexia, but
Yeah,
with numbers.
yeah.
I now know that's what I have.
But back then, did they know this thing?
So my daughter, or whatever, we actually laugh about it because we know if anything needs to be measured, don't ask me. Don't ask me because I can measure the same thing 3, 4 times and get a different measurement. And it's about concepts, and my brain is just wired. And it's fine. I know now that's what it is. But as a child,
Back then,
I couldn't do maths and arithmetic, whatever, because it the
just
concept,
wasn't, they didn't know about
even
this.
citing tables, I couldn't do it.
No.
She even sat down and helped me night after night, really tried to help me learn to, because you had to learn tables by rote then.
I remember.
Still couldn't get them, still couldn't get them.
No.
And a teacher actually shamed me. And I remember I was terrified of him because he was very large, very loud, and he'd lost a finger in the war, and he'd point at you with the half finger, which always terrified me. And poor
Yeah.
man, you say, you. And he made a complete and utter fool of me in the class because I could never get it and told me I was stupid. And he shamed me and terrified me so much. So in primary school, I actually sat there and wet myself in the class. You know,
This is so painful.
yeah,
So
yeah.
painful.
I mean, there's not so much pain in telling that story now because I've been more open about it, and I can give love to that child poor child who
Yes,
sat there, But what's a thing for a teacher to do? Because things,
absolutely.
it's a different world.
It is very different.
I never told my mum that. I never told her. And all the time,
And yeah, so you kept hold of that to yourself, so
it
she
was so.
didn't want her to feel bad.
So, of course, with what I know about the dyscalculia, added to the shame as well in school because I just couldn't
No,
grasp.
no. So that not feeling good enough
Yeah.
was really around. Do you then?
To them, then dyscalculia didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was confusing to them because I could be really good at some things, excel at some things, and yet anything around you, and things were pretty basic then at primary school education, but around numbers, maths, anything like that.
Yeah, it's like a foreign language to you.
Didn't grasp,
No,
no matter how hard I tried.
no, but nobody understood this.
No, and I was never going to grasp it,
Impossible.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so so I mean, all of that. I think by the time I got to secondary school, shame. I was one big ball of shame. You know, and then had a lot of problems at secondary school, which really weren't surprising.
No, no. So aware. I mean, this is so much of this makes complete sense to me. And I can really feel it and sense it and see it. And also have my own experiences of, I could say, me too, me too, me too, with the numbers and all of that, and the shame, the shouty teachers. And it's so good that you're able to, to be able to say these things out loud and be able to say them exactly as it was. And I don't really pick up a lot of shame from you as you share right now. I don't know if that's right or not, but maybe you feel it inside.
I think I don't mostly, for the most part, I don't feel that shame now. I feel desperately sad for my mum and what she went through. And I feel sad.
Becky.
Well,
Yeah,
it was around you having me as a single parent back then. I feel sad for what she
yeah,
went through when actually she was being very brave, but she still, and I feel sad for what I went through as a child,
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know. So I think the actual shame itself is not a feeling I carry now. And there was a book, what was the book called, which opened a lot out for me and really did a lot for me. called Healing the Shame Within You or something like that. I can't remember the
Yeah, I don't know that one, but
there's quite a lot of things like, oh yeah, that was me too, and oh yeah, and it was like there's multiple light bulb moments. But I think there's a difference in still being aware of feeling the shame and actually still recovering from the damage the shame did.
absolutely.
I think with me, there are still, excuse me, there are still some sources of shame from my older life that I think I do still carry a wee bit, which whether this goes out or not, I don't know. But as in my 20s, I was raped in my 20s. So there is still shame about that in the sense, nobody believed me. Nobody,
Nobody believed you, Jackie.
So there
I
is,
believe you.
see, there's still emotion
Yeah,
around
no
that.
wonder. I don't know if you heard what I said, Jackie. I believe you.
It's funny because I heard, but I sideswiped it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely believe you.
I think because he was an ex-boyfriend who had split up with me, and I was in a bedsit, and it was like a flat that was divided into bedsits.
Okay.
And normally they were very careful about who they let in through the front door. They'd check with the person, and then you'd go to the front door to answer. But he'd split up with me, and I started going out with someone else. So that triggered something in him that started going out with someone else. And basically, he just turned up at my room door.
They'd got in the main entrance, came to your door.
And I've shown the details, but basically raped me and left. And
Oh, Jackie, this is huge.
because he was an ex-boyfriend and somebody had a relationship with, it took me a long time before I recognized it myself as rape.
Right.
I felt all the feelings. I felt all the feelings of violation, and
You
I
knew
did
it.
nothing to encourage it. I didn't want
No,
it.
no.
It was not violent in the sense of slapped around or physically punched or anything like that, but it was violent in the sense of being forced.
Absolutely. He took what he wanted.
And yeah, but I did feel instant shame about it, but for a long time, I felt like, I'd encouraged it in some way. I'd put him in a situation to make him feel that way, or all the things that,
which is actually is a repeat of how things were with mum, because you feel so much empathy for mum's earlier life, her situations.
But I unfortunately made the mistake of telling, or thinking I was close enough to the new person to tell him that I'd been raped. And I think maybe I wanted him to kind of rise up on my behalf,
Absolutely.
He didn't believe me, so that set that, and told me it wasn't rape, it was something else, and it was my fault, and all the rest of it. So unfortunately, that set the tone for that relationship.
Absolutely. Did it end there with him, or
No, it's the one I married. So, and actually was from the very beginning, but I didn't realize it. I didn't recognize it. It was a very abusive relationship from the beginning. So I was putty in his hands, because there I already had my original shame, and then I had this fresh shame
on top of shit? Yeah.
So
You were talking earlier about the layers of it. So
he
much there.
what every abuser does in taking that, working with it, isolating me completely from everyone.
Yep.
Until I needed him, because nobody else would have me, and it's like putty in his hands, because I was ready made for that, and every time I thought of, in fact, we did split up at one point, and he persuaded me to get back together, and changed his life, turned everything around, and it was lovely for a little while.
Yeah. No.
It took me having my daughter before I had the courage to leave, because he was violent for a while, but he didn't need to keep using the violence, because he was so controlling that I was scared of him anyway. And I think it was having my daughter, I knew there was absolutely no way I was going to bring her up in this relationship. It took me 2.5 years before I could get out of it, but I
You
did.
were able to do it for her
Not for
rather
me.
than for yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, before I had, as a number of times I wanted to die. I didn't do anything about it, but I wanted to.
You actually thought about ending your life?
Yeah, not in a practical sense in that I made any move towards it, but
No
I
plan.
felt what I wanted was that the earth would just open up and swallow me down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And that kind of speaks a shame for me as I listen, because then you would be completely hidden away. Nobody would see you. You wouldn't have to face anybody.
I really do believe it was that original shame I was born with that set me up for all that happened later on,
Yeah.
and it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Um,
And that shame, that to me, that I know we're slightly over. Are you okay for a bit?
yeah, yeah.
Um, to me, that wasn't your shame. This is not your shame. It's a cultural shame. It's, your mum, your granny, um, the things that happened.
Yeah.
And then they were judged by whatever was the thing at the time, out there culturally, socially. And this got put onto you, though.
My daughter is now in her 30s, partway through her 30s. So I would say I've spent 30 years working through this stuff now, which is why I mean, even a few years ago, I'd never be able to sit and talk about it like this.
Yeah, I'm
But
so glad you feel able to say,
I know that the rape wasn't my shame. I know that the abuse wasn't my shame, and I know that my birth and upbringing wasn't my shame. But
absolutely.
as I said, I differentiate that difference between, because I kept questioning myself. Well, now that I know that's my shame, why am I still doing things the way I do them? And I think it's that difference between, okay, I know theoretically in my head, I know
Positively,
it's shame, but the damage is done and behaviours are learnt.
yeah,
And I mean, it might. How old am I now? Yeah, I might have 30 years, maybe. It might take another or to the end of my life again working through it. And if it does, it does, and great, as long as things get better and better. And on the whole, a lot of things have got better.
I'm so glad to hear that.
I kind of know. I hesitate saying. I was going to say I know who I am these days. This past year and losing my mum did make me question, well, who am I now? But I think that's quite a normal thing with the trauma and the bereavement and everything. I'm not actually the same person that I was a year ago, and I'm not. I'm not. But
It.
fundamentally, I know who I am, and I know. I think the other thing for me is I know who I want to be. And I think that's really good. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not at the mercy of who I think I should be because I am this way. But I know who I want to be, and everything I do is working towards who I want to be. Which is another reason I wanted to speak to you today. I wanted this
Right.
because, I mean, I haven't done any of the art stuff over the last year or so, even though it's what my mum wanted for me, it's what I want from me. I've not been able to do it, and something has sort of stopped me. But fundamentally, there's this voice inside, it's who you want to be. I know I'm a creative person. I'm just closing down all creativity for some reason.
And where would you get you were talking earlier about this is where I got my, I think you said affirmation, like, to be a good listener, to be there for others, the support. That's where you got that validation of, you're a good enough person if you do that stuff. If you do the art stuff, will you get some kind of validation from somebody? Will somebody say,
I will, but um, I want it to come from me.
yes,
I want to validate myself. I will because mum, although my art was very, very different from mum's art, I've now got mum's art on all the walls downstairs, which is lovely because she was very, she's watercolors. And I love her work. So my type of art, very different from hers. And yet, one of the things I did with you was a sort of a collage with butterflies on different, and I think I just called it Butterflies Rising or something, because they
Oh,
had
lovely.
trees.
Yeah.
And my mum loved that, absolutely loved it, and asked if she could have it, and actually got it very expensively framed. And now I've got it back, and I look at it
On
and
your wall.
it's
Is it
on
on
my
your
it's on my wall, although I can't I don't go into raptures about it in the way she did. I can't quite see. I like it,
Hmm?
but maybe it's now lost what it originally meant to me, perhaps. So there's something about liking a piece of art for how you look at it, but there's also how it touches you and what it means. But I've put it on my wall. I actually made myself put it on the wall because I
glad
thought.
to hear that.
So I get affirmation from knowing that Mum would, and Mum's friends from her art club, and one of them in particular, I'm still in touch, and she phones me or emails me, whatever, and one of the first things, have you done the art yet? so and that's lovely.
Yeah, she's encouraging you.
But I know I really want the affirmation to come from within me and not be looking elsewhere for it.
Sure, get that. It's
The
important.
longing to do it is within me. It's just the something
Yeah.
that's currently stopping me.
Well, you do a lot of caring and giving. There's a lot of demands are made upon you, and then your time and energy goes there. You end up with quite a lot of fatigue and exhaustion.
I think that's partly where the anger is coming from.
No wonder, no
Because I've
wonder.
got this other part of me clamoring to say, right, come on, let's get this. And my art room's turned into a junk room. My art room comes study, and it's not a nice place to be in at the moment. And it
No,
was such a nice place to be in.
yeah,
And
it'd
I
be so
want
good
the
to get your
energy
space
to get
back.
that. Yeah, I want the energy to get that nice again, but I
Maybe
don't
that
have
could be
it.
your escape room.
Yeah, exactly. It's got all my main books in there, and all my tons of art and craft stuff, because I've now got Mum's art stuff as well.
Yeah.
I didn't throw any of that away. I brought it all back. I've got loads of it, probably too much, but yeah, there's no energy left to do
No,
that. I think I'm
no,
supposed to resent it, actually.
no wonder, no wonder. And in a way, that's great. The resentment's going to be helpful. It's like a survival energy that's coming through that will make you, figure out ways to have the things that are important for you, and not all this need and want from others who demand and actually quite is it forceful? It feels very determined. I am determined that Jackie will hear me and read me and know my situation. A sort of back to that me, mummy thing again.
That
And
has been so helpful, because I'll take that away with me,
it's
that
not
I
bad.
can see that me, mummy thing.
Yeah,
And instantly inside myself, I'm not your mummy.
no,
I'm not your mummy.
absolutely. And the
And neither am I
important
your punch bag. Not that they're
that, so I
backing me.
missed that, sorry.
I said neither am I your punch bag, but I don't think that actually was appropriate, because they're not punching me in the sense of try to hurt me. But
Well,
it
they are
feels,
determined that you will listen.
yeah,
You will listen to me, you will see me, you will hear me.
yeah.
Even though you've said, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, you still put your phone on and there's ping, ping, buzz, etc. And just one more thing, I know we have to go, but just this one thing, is that okay for me to say? I hear about that, all the work you've done and all the work you've done, and that it might take another 30 years or however long. And I personally believe if you can go back to, if you can experience a therapeutic or cathartic process in little you, and it has to be at a feeling level, like really feel the shame, that will be the thing that will ease it. Because cognitively, we can talk till the cows come home. It
Do
won't
you
change a thing.
do you remember a picture? You probably don't do so many with different people, but quite a few years ago now, I think it was in the earlier days of sort of following you on Facebook, and I started doing a course. Yeah, because the first course I did with these wasn't the tree one, but it was something similar, because it was a tree I did. Anyway, and I did this picture, and I remember you did refer to it a few times, and it was me in the womb. and it was actually me giving love to myself in the womb.
Okay.
And it started, the base of it was very black and red. And then what I did was more and more protect. I think I couldn't draw one, so I cut out some just white paper of a fetus in the womb, put it in the womb. And I found it's funny because I felt like the black and red, all this swirling stuff, was all the shame around. But actually, the way I'd cut it out, even without thinking about it, I'd left this white bit around the fetus. And as I did it, I realized that was a kind of recognizable as this pure at that point.
Absolutely, you baby, you, yeah.
And what I did was, it was, I just decorated it more and more because I just wanted to give that baby so much love. And so I put little paper flowers on. I've still got it somewhere, although it's probably in tatters by now. But I put ribbon, and I wanted to give little gifts to this baby. And as a picture, it looked messier and messier.
It had a lot of meaning. It represented so much, though.
That's it, because I wanted to say to this baby right from inside the womb, that you're loved and that I love you, and you've nothing to
Be ashamed about.
or ashamed of. And I do remember you acknowledging it, because I remember, actually, I feel like I'm showing off as I say this, but I do remember you affirming it, because you affirmed my courage to not stick with just keeping it a nice picture and be willing to make a mess of it.
Get really real with it.
I did, and I said it's got quite tatty because I keep moving it to different places and I haven't really got anywhere proper to keep it. So it's bits have fallen off it now and everything, but it still means a lot to me, because through the therapeutic art, I could
process and heal, and wonderful.
Yeah, I think it was partly through that made me realize how much shame I'd soaked up just from within me.
You could see all that black and the red.
Yeah, and I know it's daft to say maybe babies don't understand words that are said, but there was my mum in the 50s, heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
And single. Mm-hmm. She would have experienced an awful lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And you would have felt it bodily. And I keep going back to this chronic fatigue, and your body keeps feeling very, very fatigued and drained and exhausted.
And as a baby, at one point, I was diagnosed with failure to thrive, because and mum said, actually, those days they took you away for 2 weeks. I was actually taken away from her for a couple of weeks to build up. To build up.
Gosh, so many experiences.
Yeah, I didn't know that I'd been taken away for a couple of weeks, but that's what they did then. Just took you away.
Your body will have known, though. I believe your body will have felt the difference, the different hands and arms and whoever was handling you, and the environment you'd be in. Your baby, you would notice something different. What's changed?
Yeah. So I was just picking up everything around me. I was just a sponge.
So much. Yeah. So much.
That painting from within the was very powerful for me.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm really sorry I can't remember it, but as you speak, I feel in it with you. I can get a hold of it, but I'm so sorry I can't actually remember.
You're so glad but for me that was very, and I'm very grateful you kind of set me on that path to.
Oh, no problem. I'm really glad it helped. So I guess we're gonna have to say goodbye, and maybe we'll do this again. I would love to, if you would like to. No pressure, of course.
Tell my story, because I know that's what we're talking about as well. Women telling their stories.
Very important. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, should we just switch off the record now? Is there anything you need to say or finish off?
I'm just looking at the time, because I've got someone picking me up round about 12.
Oh my goodness, right.
Outside for a bit, so it's fine.
So let's be quick, because that's really important. Your time is your time. And this is a good place for you to say, I'm going. And you go. So, okay, but I hear you've got to get going. So I'll switch off the record and then we'll have a quick goodbye. And then who knows, we may do something like this again.